Hey everybody, Christopher here.
Hey guys, Noah here.
Tonight's topic is inspired by one of the comments we received. So I'm going to let Noah go ahead and read this comment.
Yeah. So the comment actually came from our very first podcast episode where we were just kind of like going over a little bit of a background in our story and how we kind of got started and everything. And they left a really good comment. Their username was the Tiny Terror 69, and their comment reads, "This podcast is great. Can't wait for more episodes. I have a question about something you guys were talking about. The dreaming about stuff that is to come, deja vu. Is that a psychic thing or is it just a unexplained thing that happens sometimes? I've always dreamt about stuff periodically through the years, still randomly sometimes, and then weeks, months, or even years later, I'll find myself in that same scenario that I dreamt about and can change the things I say or do to change a bad outcome that has happened in my dream. Or sometimes the scenario is nothing of importance, so I just ride it out and get deja vu." And that is an incredible question. And there's a lot of layers to that question. So we were like, whenever I read that, I was like, oh, we have to do a whole podcast episode diving down that very question.
There are a lot of layers there, and I just want to say that we make every effort to read every single comment we get. And if something comes up like this that inspires us for something, I mean,
Oh,
we're happy to run with it. So please leave us comments on all of our content, and we'll read it, and maybe you'll be the inspiration for something coming.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's that's a big part of why we do what we do is the community outreach in a way. Like I want to hear what people have to say or, questions that they might have. And it's kind of like one of those deals where if I know the answer, I will try to answer it the best way that I can. But if I don't know the answer, then I'll try to do the research to find out what the answer is because I'm just as interested as anybody else is when it comes to what the hell is going on in the universe.
Absolutely. I mean, the two of us and all of our subscribers and followers, we're all in this together.
Right. A big part of that comment that I kind of want to say real quick, just because it's something that I do, so I do have a little bit of knowledge about it, is they were talking about this idea that whenever you're dreaming, like say you start out and it's kind of like a really creepy dream or a scary dream or anything of the nature, and you can kind of like take control of your dream. From my research that I've done, because I do this as well, that is known as lucid dreaming. And essentially it's the idea that there's something in your brain that doesn't switch off. So like even whenever you're sleeping, your brain is still active. So you are essentially aware that you're sleeping. So if you have like a dream and say like you're getting chased by a demon, you know what I mean? Like you can't necessarily change everything or the landscape of the dream, but you can control yourself in the dream. So like I've had dreams where like I'm being chased by a demon and then all of a sudden I'll give myself like Superman powers and I'll be able to beat the shit out of the demon. So like I wanted to throw that's like known as like lucid dreaming. And the part that I'm not 100% confident on, and this is kind of like where we can, you know, talk about this, is I don't know if it's lucid dreaming that is directly connected into like this idea of premonitions of the future, like dreaming in a sense, because I've had that too, like where this person is talking about, um, you know, foreseeing things before they come in a way, like that deja vu moment where you dream about something and months years later, it's unpredictable when it happens, but you'll see something and it's kind of like a deja vu moment and you're like, oh, I've seen this before, like this was in a dream that I had. And so I don't know if that's directly connected to lucid dreaming or if they're two separate things. What's your take on that?
The way I'm going to tie that together, when we're lucid dreaming, if we're faced with making decisions or if we have an opportunity to take a certain course of action over another course of action, I feel like what we're being faced with in that moment does somehow relate to something that's either going on in our lives currently, and that's what's inspired it, or on some level, it's something that's coming and we're being prepared for it. How we're being prepared for it, I don't entirely know. Is it a psychic part of ourselves that's connecting to that for what's coming down the road? Do we have a guide or someone else pushing us a certain direction to show us, hey, this is coming. You're going to be faced with this decision. Make sure you pay attention to this because you're going to need this.
Right. And I think the guide thing, I think that's an interesting thread to pull on, especially because whenever you think about that, it's almost like if you're being given a premonition or a vision about something that is to come to challenge you or something you need to deal with, it's kind of like this idea that it's coming from somewhere, right? Like maybe it's not just random nothingness. Is it coming from somewhere? So therefore, you start to ask the questions like, yeah, is it something that your guide, your spirit guide is sending to you, or on a bigger scale, is it essentially the universe itself? The universe has a plan for you, or essentially it needs you to deal with certain things, a part of the grandeur plan that we don't know, what is to be. And so is that what's sending those messages for you, and you have to interpret it through your psychic abilities.
This is why I've had a long standing habit of writing my dreams down. I've been doing that for years. And when I go back and reread what I've written recently, I like to circle things. Then after
Mhm.
some time, I'll go back and I'll look again just at what I've circled. And to me, that's provided tremendous insight into what I need to be focusing on or even what's coming my way. So there's definitely that psychic piece that fits in there. Again, for me, that piece is hard to set to the side. I mean, for me, that piece is always at play.
Right.
But I would think it would work that way for people other than myself too, if they were to use that technique. Write these dreams down, go back, circle the parts that stand out to you, read what's circled. You're going to find things that either relate to
Right.
what you need to do now or watch out for this.
Right. And you might even find yourself in the situation where you start to notice patterns to kind of like give a little bit of like reoccurrence in a way. It's like whenever you notice patterns of like, oh, this matches up with this. So like what is the overlying message that is trying to be relayed to me? And you might find your answer in that, in just like maybe it's something that you need to do for spiritual healing. Maybe it's something that like to grow and be the person that you're supposed to be. Maybe you need to solve something to get where you're supposed to be. There's an infinite amount of reasons as to like why these messages might be coming in the way that they do. But I think that's a great idea. I think recording what your dreams are potentially a big piece of the puzzle to solving the mysteries that somebody might have about something.
Right. And I think this can apply to absolutely anybody, but especially someone of a spiritual nature or a spiritual minded person. I almost feel like they have a duty to pay attention to their dreams. I know that's a very strong
Right.
statement, but I'm going to
Right.
throw that down.
Well, right, and especially in this idea that like say like with what we do, right? And we're simply just looking for the answers of the universe, when it comes to the paranormal, things outside of the paranormal, we're really trying to understand the inner workings of the universe. And with the platform that we have right now, and we're trying to get even bigger, which real quick, I have to throw this out here. I'm so appreciative to all of our followers. We've had such a big jump here recently, with like literally within a week's time, we went from 177 followers on YouTube to 505, and literally in a week. And so I just couldn't be more appreciative of everybody that has been following us, has been helping us share our channel to help us reach where we want to go. And I couldn't be more appreciative. But my point is that with the platform that we're on right now. We're doing these podcasts, we're doing these movies and all this stuff. We're trying to outreach to people. It's kind of like what you're saying in the sense of like is our duty to essentially go out there, research this stuff, and relay the messages that we're being given to the public so that they can also understand the inner workings of the universe and reach what their potential, because like how many people don't know that they have psychic abilities, and part of their journey is to understand that they have those abilities. And it's like maybe by doing this kind of stuff right here will help them understand what they have and how they can use it. So I just have to throw that out there.
Right. And to think about, I mean, not only are we sharing our insights, but what doors does this open for other people? I think that's just as much an important part of this work, that we have the opportunity to open doors for other people to think about things, to research things, to ask questions.
Right. The potential of that is infinite. It just like all the possibilities from where that goes, how it helps other people. And again, you never know, like with the things that maybe we're going to be able to accomplish in our research that we do. But at the same time, it's like if we could help somebody else, who knows what they're going to be able to accomplish in whatever they find in their research. And then you never know, that would then you plug in the two ideas and it comes up with the answer. You never know.
Right.
it's
I,
it's crazy, the inner workings.
it is. I'm going to throw out an idea that I've always carried around too. I've always felt like almost every single dream, almost, I'm not going to fully categorize this as every single dream, but almost. I think if you really break it down, pick it apart, and analyze it, you're going to find elements of your own past, present, and future there. You might not
Oh,
recognize the future elements right away, but when you go back and do what I do, reread it, circle what stands out, put the pieces together. But I think almost every single dream is a representation of past, present, and future. And we might not recognize what that future is in the moment, but we will.
right. It's kind of like one big giant puzzle. And the other thing that I have to kind of question here is like, obviously that also comes with dreams that like you'll wake up and you remember fragments of the dream, but it's almost like there's a lot that you can't remember. And we've all had that where we're actually like frustrated, like I just dreamt this. How can I not remember what I just dreamed? And
Right,
I have to question, is it because at that current point in time we're not ready for the message? It needs to be implanted in our brain so that one day when we're ready for that message, it's there in our mind. So you talk about like regression. Is that like if you regress and to essentially remember a dream that you had that you can't remember exactly what happened, is that going to give you the missing piece or the key to understanding that dream and maybe where you need to be at this point? But at the time you had the dream, you weren't ready to be given that message. It just had to be implanted in your head to a point where eventually you will be ready for it.
right. And that's an interesting concept there too, because I have done regression work to help people remember dreams. And what if still in that moment, technically they weren't ready for it? That's a risk we take, I guess.
Right. Right.
And then, of course, there's the dreams that just don't seem to make any sense or have any context in regard to past, present, or future. I'm sure we've all had those.
All right. Right. Absolutely.
One of my best of all time was the dream that I was being chased by Phil Collins. It's like I was actively trying to escape Phil Collins. I would never try to escape Phil Collins. I love Phil Collins, but in this dream, I was running from him. It's like terrified that he was going to catch me.
Oh
There are
my.
no elements of my past, present, nor future in that. None.
Right.
That might be just like, what did I eat before bed?
Right.
I think with the psychic dreams, though, there's just so many different layers. I mean, for me, that's why I'm here doing this. It all started with a dream of someone
Hmm.
dying. I mean, I told that story in our first episode, having a dream of a family friend passing away, a healthy 42-year-old woman. She was gone within 3 days. I couldn't have known that was going to happen.
Right.
I mean, dreams are what set me on this whole path. Everything that I do all comes from having that dream.
Right. I right, and it's like whenever you start thinking of like what are dreams in a sense, and it's like you're sleeping. Your brain is supposed to be on like on autopilot in a sense. You know what I mean? But the
Right,
fact that like all it does is just sit there and you have these strange happenings that are happening inside of your head, and then it's even weirder whenever they they tell you something that hasn't yet come, because I had that too where I dreamt of a family member that passed away. So it's like you ask yourself, what the hell is that?
with the question, what are dreams? I feel too that throughout the course of any given day, there's just countless things that happen to us, things that we experience, things that we hear and see and do that we just don't get a chance to process. And I think dreams are our mind's way of just processing the things that we don't have a chance to process throughout our day. And when we end up with something that makes absolutely no sense to us, I think our brain just went through a whole series of things that we didn't have a chance to process. Somehow it
Right.
all works out. Somehow it's the mind working its way through these things. In the end, we it makes no sense to us, but I do
Right.
think that's a big part of it.
Oh yeah.
So your dream kind of becomes this dumping ground all of these things that
Honestly.
you didn't get to process throughout the course of your day.
Right. I think that's a good point to point out there. It's I feel like the potential behind what dreams are is it's why it's one of the age old questions. There's not anybody that can give you a straight up answer. Doctors can't fully explain it. Now there might be some that try to, tell you they know what's going on. It's like no you don't. No you don't. You understand why things might work the way they do in the sense of like, oh, well, neurons in your brain, they process, they send messages and stuff like that, but it's like, okay, cool, but like how do you explain whenever I'm given premonitions of the future? How do you explain that? Where does that come from? That's not my mind just seeing images and processing of what I just experienced. That's like it hasn't happened yet. So how do you explain that?
Right. And I mean, who
And
knows? Maybe there'll never be an explanation for it,
I don't know
but we
that
know it's there.
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if our minds could comprehend, why that happens. Other than just like for me, again, it's like this idea that the message is being sent. If you think almost of your brain almost in as a computer, it's the email that was sent by somebody else. Then you open the attachment, and now you're
Right.
seeing what the content of the email was. You're being sent some sort of important message that you need to decipher.
It's actually a really good analogy. I've never heard it put quite that way. It was good.
I don't. Yeah, your brain is a sent because like my thing too, and why I say that is because whenever people talk about like a living person, right? And they talk about, the brain is like who you are. It's like, no. The brain is just another organ, just like your heart, just like your liver, just like your lungs. It's another organ. The way that it works, however, is different in the sense that it's the computer to your body. It's what processes all the neurons and stuff like that and is able to, you know, read and decipher everything that works throughout your body. So yeah, it's the computer of your body. But who you are is not the brain, it's the spirit. That is what gives you life, that's your personality because for instance, like the moment that somebody's dead, guess what? The brain shuts off. The brain shuts off. It's no longer useful. You can't do a brain transplant. You're dead. You're gone. And
Right.
it's like, have you ever seen anybody that they've considered brain dead? There's no person there. There's like nothing there. There's
Right.
nothing there because what was there is gone. It can't. Yeah. So it's like that's why I like to use that analogy of of the brain. It's kind of like the supercomputer of the body. It's the only thing that can process the information, but essentially the hardware, the drive of the computer is your soul, is your spirit.
Right.
If you take that away, the computer is useless.
Absolutely. I keep thinking about now just all these different functions of dreams. I mean, giving us insight into the future, helping us process what we haven't processed. When I think of how many people have told me that they dream of loved ones who have passed away, I mean, for me, I can probably connect to a loved one who's passed very easily. It's just part of what I do. We know that.
Right.
Not everybody can do that. When someone has a dream of a loved one who passed away, I mean, is it just that they happen to be dreaming of them, or is it that person coming to visit? I mean, I know what I think. What are your
Right.
thoughts on that?
I believe I'm going to say what you were going to say in the sense that I 100% believe that that is that person coming to visit them. And
Absolutely. I've always felt that way.
one of the biggest stories that I can to kind of like tie that in a way is I remember one time I was at my childhood home with my parents and my grandfather, and a Neil like, we had one of those like little radios, like under counter radios that like attaches to your under counter or whatever, and it has like one of those like CD things where you can put like six different CDs inside of it, and it started playing a Neil Diamond song. And Neil Diamond was one of my grandmother's favorite artists. And the funny thing was whenever when they looked it up, the Neil Diamond CD wasn't even in the tray. So there was no possible way that a Neil Diamond song could have been played on that thing, but it was. So the reason I say that is because just in the way that I believe in that moment, that was my grandmother saying that she was there with us and that she had come to visit. To me, it works no differently if I'm dreaming, and because like if I see her in the dream and she says something to me, I 100% think that is her spirit trying to connect to mine to give me that message that she's here.
I absolutely agree. And, when I separate it out, I think everybody can have that experience, whether they
Yeah.
do things how I do or not. I don't think you have to be psychic to have that experience, which just leads me down this road of thinking about just all the potential we can tap into through our dreams. We're
Right.
so distracted as we make our way through our day. And
That's a
go ahead, what's that?
let's say that's interesting. That itself is an interesting idea too, because it kind of like I have this idea when it comes to spirituality and psychic mediums and stuff like that, and I almost want to say that like I feel like really anybody could have those abilities. The difference is that some people have unlocked that that side of their spirituality to where they have access to that kind of stuff, and the people that haven't yet is because of like kind of where you're going with that in the sense of whenever they go throughout their daily lives they don't believe in those type of things, so it blocks it. There's like a multitude of reasons as to why, but it's almost like again when we're talking about the brain, I feel like if you connect spiritually enough to unlock certain things, I feel like eventually anybody could actually essentially have these sort of these sort of abilities that psychic mediums possess. It's just that like you've been dealing this from like since you was a kid. So that part was already unlocked for you. So you just know how to use it at this point. Where some people, like obviously, like they never had that unlocked. So they'd have to do a lot of sort of like spiritual work, and then they'd have to start believing in what that is to fully unlock that. But the dreams, essentially, whenever you're dreaming, your brain's not fully awake to block all those sort of, blockages. It's just open. So therefore, whenever these spirits, they have more access to essentially go in and try to talk to you at that point.
Right. I mean, we're taught from a young age to just set certain things to the side and not believe certain things and not connect to certain things. And as a result, that stands in our way. We stand in our own way. I mean, to me, dreams are just that time when we get the hell out of our own way.
Right. And then you start talking about um, pieces of equipment that kind of talk about what we're doing, what we're saying here in the one that I want to get my hands on the most right now, which is the God helmet. And essentially, when it was created, it was almost their way in trying to scientifically prove what a psychic medium does, because essentially it sends magnetic pulses through your head to try and unlock some of the things in your brain that might be blocking these psychic abilities. And normal people will put that on, and they almost talk about it in the sensations that they feel as almost like a kind of like a religious sort of thing. Like whenever like they talk about like they felt the presence of somebody and stuff like that, almost like a religious sense. It's like, to me, that's like that's what psychic mediums are doing. So therefore it's like the God helmet and essentially is essentially proving in a way what psychic mediums do. So therefore, if somebody can use the God helmet to put it on and help them unlock these psychic abilities while they're wearing it, it proves to me that, again, everybody has that ability. It's just that it's been tampered with, it's been blocked. And
Right.
part of the spiritual journey is unlocking those closed doors.
Right. I absolutely agree with that. Which, I mean, takes me again back to the idea of just writing the dreams down. Just imagine what you can unlock doing that. I'm just going to keep emphasizing that over and over again because I've
Right.
done it for so long and I've seen how tremendously powerful it is.
I agree with you. I mean, that it definitely is like a very important thing, and for a multitude of reasons. Like in your own sort of spiritual growth, or if you're trying to be a paranormal investigator and you're trying to get answers for what you might be investigating, like there's a number of reasons as to why that itself is important.
Right. I hear people talk too about those times where they wake up and they just don't remember a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on there? Is it a matter of they weren't supposed to remember what was coming through? Like, maybe not until later, like you were saying, they weren't ready for something.
Right.
I kind of feel too that sometimes when we're just physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually exhausted, then we might just shut down. And those are the times where we're not remembering anything.
Right. So then
I
you almost kind of like in a inadvertent way bring up the question of like, do you always dream? Like every night, do you have a dream, or are there nights where you don't have a dream, and that's why it's just you don't remember anything?
I feel like when we're just exhausted and done, we just shut ourselves down and there's nothing there. Then to me it's just pure uninterrupted rest, not processing anything. But then again, of course, that means we have to go back and process more later on.
Right. I almost kind of take it back to this computer reference. It's like I feel like the nights that like say you don't have a dream, it's almost like the computer is restarting, you know?
Right,
You're just restarting because, your computer's at a point where it needs an update.
right.
You need an update, so therefore it's going to completely shut down for a second as it's running its update in the background to so that way you're good to go. You're fully rested. You're good to go for the next time, that you need to have something brought to you. And so that's kind of the way that I kind of view it. So I actually don't think you always dream.
Right.
And again, I don't know that for sure. That's just my opinion on that. And that's how I view it, because it's hard for me to believe, like, because even on nights when like I dream something and I remember that I dreamt something, but then there's nights where I wake up and it's like I don't there's nothing. So I feel like that's just what it was. There was nothing. It's like my brain was restarting that night.
Right. When I go to write things down, which, like I said, it's been my habit for years, there's mornings where there's just nothing to write down. And there's other mornings where I don't feel like I'm so much remembering a dream, but I'll still write something down, first thing that comes to my mind. And sometimes
Right.
I even think that was not a dream. I don't know where that's coming from, but it is what it is.
Right. I agree with that analogy there. I agree.
God, there's just so much to this topic. This is so cool. I'm really grateful for that comment and for that
I am too.
suggestion.
Such a good question. And I hope that so far we've been able to give maybe some insight on it, but again, we're just as interested in this stuff as you guys are, so we're really trying to dive into this. But yeah, I mean, it was such a great question. I hope more come with it.
Absolutely. I kind of want to pick at the deja vu idea a little bit more since that's something that was specifically referenced in the comment. I want to make sure we just give that
Right, right.
its attention. And
Yeah,
now I'm going to tie something completely separate from dreams into dreams. Now I'm going to make this really confusing.
okay. We like confusing.
Absolutely. This idea that of deja vu, that we've experienced something, did I dream this and now it's happening? Could that somehow be we're astral traveling into our own future when we dream
Yeah,
and then later actually living that experience?
right. There's that. There's the idea that let's like, is it like sometimes is it future stuff, or is it also like your remote viewing in a way?
Right, that could be too, because those are two different things to me, for sure.
Right. Just because in the sense of like what I mean by that, because I understand that, like, yeah, with deja vu, it's like you're seeing specific events from the future, and then when you have a deja vu moment, that's what that happens in that way. But with remote viewing, what I mean by that is like if you remote view a place, you know what I mean? Like you remote viewed a place, and then you end up you end up coincidentally there in the future, and you're like, wait, I've seen this place before. It's not necessarily tied to an event that happened. It's just more of like, I've seen this place before. Like, how would I've never been here before. How have I seen this place before?
Right. Well, I mean, I've definitely had that experience, but I did it intentionally.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to put out there what the place was right now,
Right.
but I did a very intentional journey into a place because there were things I needed to know. And I landed there and walked around and saw different rooms and even ran into a person. And that brought me back. When I woke up, I had a message on my phone from someone asking me if I wanted to go to that place the next day.
Wow.
And this was not someone I'd ever really had that type of interaction with. Obviously, we knew each other, otherwise, they wouldn't have been messaging me at all. But to just randomly, hey, you want to go to this place? That wasn't normal.
Right.
And then when I got there, something really strange happened. They'd given us a code to let ourselves in. And after a while, the building caretaker came by. And this man walked in the door. I was sitting in a dark room. I could see him because he walked into a room that was lit. And I thought, well, shit, that's the man I ran into last night
Oh, wow.
when I took my little astral journey.
Right.
So when he came in, he asked if anybody wanted a tour of the property. And that's not my normal thing. Normally I don't. But in that instance, since
Right.
I'd taken the time to go on my little astral journey because I had questions, I was like, oh yeah, I want a tour because I've got questions.
Right.
So I'm sitting in this dark room and I said, yeah, I'll take a tour. And this guy walks into the room. When he stepped into the room, that was the first time he could actually see me. He starts saying, yeah, I can. And then he looks at me, freezes, and says, no, I've got to go. And he turned and left.
Wow.
So I think he saw me just as clearly as I saw him the night before.
Right. That would make sense as to why he would have been freaked out by that.
And that whole experience to me was, I mean, I was laying down in bed. I was relaxed. I was on that verge of dreaming, but I set an intention that that's where I was going to go. I was going to let myself travel to there.
Right.
I'll never
Right.
quite forget that.
Right. And yeah, the deja vu thing is such a weird topic because it is so hard to understand in the sense of the only thing I can think of is that it is some sort of premonition or vision about the future because whenever you have a dream like that and you go back and then you're like, oh, I remember this. It's like, how else do you explain that? It didn't happen yet. How are you seeing events? How are you seeing events of the future? Like, how is that
Right,
possible?
right. And I
And
mean, go ahead.
like, I was just gonna say, like, here recently, I had that weird dream, which I'm not really gonna put out there quite yet, just because it's very involved with something that we're working on right now. So I kind of hate to say this to everybody listening, but you're kind of gonna have to hold on to that for a second and just watch everything that we're doing and where it goes for right now. Just because I don't want to. It's something that we're very intently working on right now, so I don't really want to put it out there and force anything unnatural. I kind of just want to let it see where it goes. But I had a very strange one here very recently that was so prominent to me that I immediately woke up from the dream and texted you what I dreamt to be like, hey, I think this is important. And when I sent it to you, you had the same exact thing. So it's, or not the same thing, but like you had the same feeling that like, yeah, this is possibly major. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
I mean, we just had a conversation too about what we're working on right now and what happens when we've worked through that. What's next? And I feel like there's the what's next.
Right. I feel like that dream that I had almost does kind of tie into possibly what's next. Again, I don't know that for sure, and I don't want to force anything unnaturally, but
Right,
for what the dream brought up, I would say that's a possible good feeling on what could be next for what Crooked Path dives into once we tie up all the loose ends of what we're dealing with right now.
right.
I don't know, it's some weird stuff going on right now. That's putting it mildly.
We'd be bored if it wasn't weird, though.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, I like weird, but
Same.
it's definitely one of those things that like I hope people stick around because it is such a wild ride that we're kind of on right now. To the point where like there's some stuff that we do that I even have a hard time believing in sometimes. So it's like I can only imagine what the viewers are thinking right now. But it's interesting.
Which I mean, too, we recently put it out there, the drawing for someone to come and join us, and as we do more events and people can actually see how we
Right.
do what we do,
Right.
I think that's an opportunity for people to experience what we do for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And I think even beyond that, it's kind of like, just anybody that's interested in paranormal investigating, like, please, like, we love the community outreach. It's what we want to do. So, like, I'd be more than happy to, if you're somebody that's new to investigating, like, and you want somebody that's a little bit more seasoned when it comes to how to do this, it's like I'd love to spread my knowledge of it. And it's like, again, like, I'm not an expert, but like, again, I'll help you with what I can, and if I don't know the answer, I will try to research as much as I can to get you the answers, or I'll find somebody that does.
Right.
I'll
Oh,
find
for
you
sure.
somebody that's an expert in the matter, because yeah, I'm not an expert in everything. There's a lot that I need to learn. There's a lot that, like, you and I are you're teaching me in the sense, because I don't know it. I'd like to, like, I really, one of the big ones, actually there's two technically right now that I'm really wanting to dive into here very soon, which is Reiki and energy work, and tarot reading. I'd really like to get into tarot reading, so that way I understand for myself whenever something is pulled what that means. But also whenever we do these events, so that way I can start doing some readings as well.
Right. Well, I can definitely take you down both of those roads. So,
Yeah, and I'm excited to get to do that.
and I almost feel like you don't have a choice with the Reiki. I mean, people will know why I say that soon.
Right.
I almost feel like you don't have a choice.
I don't think I have a choice. I feel like I've been kind of just pushed into that one, which I'm cool with. I'm 100% cool with that, but I've been kind of pushed into that one.
Right.
The tarot reading is just also like I said, so that way I kind of have a better understanding of whenever we pull something what that means, but also too, so that way, like, when we go to events, you know if somebody wants a reading from me, they I can give them one, and I can give them an accurate one, because
Come on, the one I heard you do on Saturday was great.
I don't think it was that good, but I mean, I don't think it was that good, but it was a reading. We'll say that it was a reading, because I feel like for me, I feel like I could do a tarot reading, just in the sense of, like, I have, like, the little bit of intuition when it comes to things. So if I understood the traditional meaning of things, then I feel like, oh yeah, I could do that. I feel like I could do that.
I think you could too. And it's always good to have something to dive into just to add to your toolbox, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like the moment that you kind of shut yourself off from learning new things, that's kind of when you become ignorant.
Right.
That's the way I want to say that, because you know you're never gonna know everything. You're just not. That's not possible. So the moment that you start to be like, oh, I know everything, it's like, no, now you're ignorant. Like, you're always going to be learning something new, and there's always going to be somebody, whether they have 50 years of experience or 1 year of experience, and they're going to be able to teach you something new.
Right. For me, my big thing right now that I'm diving into is palmistry.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you to kind of learn more about that, because I've always been kind of interested in that stuff too, and how that all works.
Right.
I'm interested in that.
Just never had a chance in all these years, and now the opportunity's finally there.
Right. That's like, for me, besides the Reiki and the tarot reading, I want to start diving more into, like rune reading and understanding runes and that kind of stuff. That's something that, as people will see coming up, those runes and sigils become pretty useful in stuff that we're doing. And we've kind of talked about this before, which it'll end up being its own podcast in itself, but like, the power that does seem to be behind these symbols seems to be pretty powerful.
Right. Well, let's tie that back into dreams too. I mean, I think our dreams are just absolutely filled with symbols. When
Yeah.
spirit communicates with me, they often communicate in symbols. And sometimes it's a symbol that doesn't really relate to what's going on, but the spirit who gave it to me knows that, oh, I'm going to do with that what they need me to do. I'm going to make sense of it.
Right. Right.
And other times it's just purely a matter of what is that? That makes no sense to me. So then I have to ask questions or dig, but I think our dreams are absolutely filled with symbols.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like I've kind of mentioned this before, not on camera, but whenever we've been having these discussions off camera, part of my reason for like believing in symbols is almost this idea that the universe has essentially an equation that makes sense of the universe. So essentially, like I believe that magic is simply science that hasn't yet been understood. And because like if you think about the way that science works, it's like we understand how that works. So whenever you do A plus B equals C, right, and it's science related, and it's like, oh, that makes sense why, right? But at the same time, like how many people in the world practice witchcraft and all this kind of stuff and they get the results that they're looking for, right? Like they do specific rituals, they do specific seances, they draw specific symbols, whatever it is, right? And they get what they're looking for. That to me is then technically a form of science. It's just that we consider it magic because we understand that doing this, this, and this equals this, but we may not understand why the inner workings work the way that they do, right? We don't know
Right.
what pulls that all together. So therefore it's just magic is simply science that we don't yet understand. And it's a hard concept for people to wrap their minds around because yeah, unless you're able to physically see it, touch it, smell it, hear it, like it yeah, people are it's hard for them to believe in it. And the sense that like the things that magic does, like whenever I draw a rune symbol or a sigil to that like to mean something, and people just don't all of a sudden see fireworks happening or something like that, they're like, oh, that's all bullshit. But it's like, no, I think it has power. We just don't understand it necessarily. And
Right.
so
And
it
looking, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
No, just going with that idea of looking at it as science. I mean, the two biggest elements behind that science to me, when you compare magic and science, would be energy and intention.
Right. Energy, right. And it's like energy is what makes up the universe. And
Right.
everything is made up of energy. And the thing is like you can use different words to describe it. Like scientists will call it mass. Mass makes up everything in the universe, right? Mass
Right.
is energy. Frequencies, think about this, for instance, like and this is something that we use every day. We understand we understand that it's there, but you can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't taste it, whatever. And that's radio frequencies, television frequencies. Every day, whenever you're in the car and you're listening to the radio, there's an invisible frequency that's being sent from one antenna to another, and it relays information, right? And the device that you have is able to decipher that information and then make it play, right? So
Right.
why is it any more crazy that energy is that frequency? And just simply whenever you're doing magic, you're sending and receiving energy that our brains, again, because I'm back to this supercomputer idea, that's that's the device that's able to decipher that information that you just relayed. It's a frequency.
Right.
So why is that any more crazy? Because again, you know that when you turn your radio on, it's going to work. You know when you turn on your television, it's going to turn on and you're going to see images. You know that. But at the same time, do you really understand how that works? Because it's invisible frequencies. How is it sending and receiving this information? Then it's just played. How does that work? You don't know.
Right.
Now, unless you're a scientist and again you understand the inner workings of how frequencies work, yeah, I'll give that to you. You're going to understand that. But again, so because you know how that works, how is it any more crazy to say that well, energy is that frequency that is being sent and received, and our mind, being the psychic supercomputer, is able to relay that message.
Right.
Just a little thought there to kind of keep in the back of your head for anybody that's maybe having some issues with processing that or understanding that. I just figure maybe that's a nice little analogy to maybe make it make a little bit of sense and kind of like the way that we see how that works.
I love that. I think that's great.
I don't know, but it's why we do what we do. I mean, I'm never going to sit here and tell you 100% that I have the answer or I know 1000% I have the answer. It's just that, like, I have my theories based off of what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard, and then I try to put all of them together. And based off of everything that I've seen from multiple different sources that are all saying maybe similar things, maybe different things, I just try to put them together to make sense. And as far
Right.
as like the energy workings, that's the best way that I can give that analogy is that it's a frequency. Just because you can't see it, hear it, smell it, whatever sense you want to relate to it, just because you can't do that doesn't mean it's not there.
Right. No, that's fantastic. I agree with that completely. I mean, you stated that so well. I don't even have anything to add to that. That was really well done. That was
Damn.
really well done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that was great.
I feel like that's something I'm excited. Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think it's an interesting topic, and that's why I've been so happy to dive into this today. I mean, it was such a great question. I can't wait for more questions to come up like it because this has been a great conversation today. I've loved every minute of this.
Same. This is great. We really appreciate the comments and anything we can use for inspiration. We're grateful for that. And I mean, thanks for being with us.
But yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps up, what we wanted to talk about today. So again, I just want to send a huge shout out and thank you to everybody that is following us on this crazy journey. And we appreciate everything that everybody does for us as far as sharing our channel, liking our posts, stuff like that. We couldn't be more appreciative. Please leave more and more comments so we can talk to you guys and answer your questions as much as possible. I know eventually we want to start doing some lives with this too, so we could have some actual live interactions. It will kind of keep you guys posted on stuff like that happens. I can also say too that here very soon is going to be the first episode of our trip to the Ohio State Reformatory. So I'm very excited for you guys to see that. That should be coming. That should be coming out here very very soon. I mean, within less than a week, it should be out. So definitely keep your eye out for that. But again, just thank you so much for all the support that everybody does. I couldn't be more appreciative.
Yeah, we appreciate all of you so much.
Oh well, I think that's it.
I think so. So we will see you all next time.
All right, see you guys next week. Have a good one.